How's it going, everybody? I'm Bearhead2, and welcome to Pikmin 2 Pre-Release and Unused Content. But before I begin the video, I want to admit something here. This is not the first time I've made this video. It's a bit of a tragic tale, but I'll try to be quick. Over the course of about 10 months, I spent 2.5 months straight. I had my reasons working on the video. It was a very long video, just as I'm sure this one will be, and in fact, it even reached 3 hours long, and it wasn't even finished. But on the same day it reached that length, the worst thing happened. My editing program crashed while saving. This is okay, I thought to myself. It's crashed before, but when I went back to look at the file, it was gone. I looked the best I could, but it just wasn't there. The day after, I even brought it to a computer expert to look through the hard drive to find any deleted files. However, there was a very severe lack of dice. The file wasn't recoverable. But there was one bit of information I learned that day. Apparently, solid-state drives aren't that good at repeatedly overwriting files, or something like that, and they aren't very good at data recovery either. From what I can surmise, my file began to overwrite itself, causing it to crash and essentially explode. That was 2 weeks of editing down the drain. But not all was lost, as I accidentally made and never bothered to delete a very old version of the video. It was only about 40 minutes long, so I'd be losing 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it wasn't everything. I opened up the file, and to my horror, it wasn't 40 minutes, but 4. Now I had lost everything. Okay, well, to be honest, it wasn't actually everything. I still had all the parts I used. The recordings, the images, the videos I used in it, they were still there. But what I didn't have was all the text, and, most importantly, how it was all put together. I weighed my options. Do I go back to editing it, spending another 2 weeks bringing it back to 3 hours? Or do I start over and wipe the slate clean? I'd already lost everything, so what's a bit more? The video wasn't great, either. Improvements could probably be made. So, if you can't tell, I chose the extra work. Goodbye, Pikmin 2 Pre-Release and Unused Content. But hello, Pikmin 2 Pre-Release and Unused Content! So let's see if I can actually improve things. But a word of warning, kids, if you're playing with your fancy solid-state drive, you're playing with fire. Keep your extremely large files broken up, lest you befall the same fate I did. So on to the actual video, allow me to explain it. This video is supposed to be as comprehensive a collection as I can find for everything that could have been for Pikmin 2, save for anything in any interviews. There will be 3 sections to the video: pre-release, which covers promotional images and trailers, the kiosk demo, which covers that, and that was not very fun to do the first time around, and the final game, which covers the final game, and no version differences. I might be crazy, but I'm not stupid. But one more small thing before we finally dive in though. I want to mention numbers. Purely because I want to see it, and maybe posterity, I'm going to keep track of how many days it takes me to make certain parts of the video. They'll be represented in differently colored numbers. When a number pops up in the top left corner, it represents a new day that I started working on something. Red numbers represent how many days it took me to write the script, blue for how many days it took me to record it, and yellow for how many days it took me to edit it. If you for some reason find a number in parentheses, it represents a notable enough change that I made on a differently numbered day. I did this for the original video as well. Before it died, writing was day 24, recording was on day 27, and editing was on day 15. So, without further ado, let's look at the earliest pre-release thing that I could find. It's hard to be certain what's the earliest, but I'm going with this. Olimar and Louis have balls in their antennas, which I can't for certain remember if it's in the final game or not. But, you know, those are just details. Pretty sure they don't, though. The Pikmin are carrying a rusty can, which doesn't exist in the final. There's no actual HUD except for the carrying numbers, but that could be for the purposes of a promotional image. I doubt that, however. Speaking of the carrying numbers, the color is exactly the same as in the original game. The next one here is very similar to the last one, but it actually has a HUD. Perhaps it was for the best we didn't see this, as it's pretty ugly and clearly unfinished. Let's see if I can break this down. Olimar's health icon is the one from the original game, and its corresponding health wheel is grainy, ugly, doesn't really seem to fit right, and is obviously placed on top of a generic bubble background. The standby Pikmin icon is just leaf yellow Pikmins, but it's colored gray except for the ears, which makes it look kinda weird. It might not be extremely obvious which is the standby Pikmin here, so let's touch on that later. Both the total Pikmin counter and standby Pikmin counters have preceding grayed out zeros. The sub-level counter just says floor and is named in all caps. As for the sprays, the bitter spray is red and the spicy spray is yellow. In addition, they're in rectangular containers, which has an odd effect in the final game. They're rounded containers, but if you've ever noticed, the sprays don't quite fit the containers they're in. It seems to me that the developers never changed the textures for the liquid contained within, leaving them only ever fitting their original rectangular homes. On the subject of the colors, I'm pretty sure the berry colors never change, and there's no evidence that I've found to suggest this. Besides the HUD, there were ugly sports and early texture. In the corner behind the sub-level counter, there seems to be an untextured somethings, and of course, there's a yellow bulb orb. Yellow bulb orbs do exist in the final game. Kinda. In the files, an enemy with the name Yellow Chappy, and spoilers, I suppose, Yellow Coat Chappy exist. Code denotes a Bulborb's dwarf variation. The Yellow Bulborb got turned into the Hairy Bulborb, and the as of now unseen dwarf Yellow Bulborb was unsurprisingly turned into the Snow Bulborb. In this image, Olimar and Louie are fighting the Empress Bulblax on floor 1 of a cave with some lighting that probably is never used for this scenario, and with only 3 Pikmin. I sarcastically say good luck, but it seems he's already made some pretty good progress. Now that Louie and the HUD are in the same room, we can see that he doesn't have an icon. There isn't an explanation for this, but it probably won't be a while until we see it. Olimar and Louie are missing their antenna balls, for some reason. Going above ground, we should have stayed under. This is disgusting. I mean, the D and D isn't even capitalized yet. I'm pretty sure this is the Valley Repose, given the whole asphalt thing, the white stripe, the mantle cover, and the cave entrance on top of it. At least we have the sun meter now, which is with... Wait a minute. Is that 123 Pikmin on the field? I knew about that for the original game, but it wasn't until I started looking for this video, the original specifically, that I found it's the same for Pikmin 2 as well. The more you know. Now we're in the Awakening Wood, still on day 1, of course. There's 3 burgeoning spiderwebs that we can see, 2 of them just barely on the right. They spawn 21 berries total, meaning there must at least be 5. And 2 of them are ultra bitter, meaning that one of the hypothetical 5 must be mixed berry. And look at that, all the berries are the normal colors. There's also a very obvious early clog. This could be, and this is just a theory, the Snagrid Hole. Of course, the Snagrid Hole isn't supposed to be there, but we're still pretty early in development. Up on top, there's another yellow Bulborb, some sorry excuses for tiles, and something inside of them. It looks like some dead dwarf yellow Bulborbs, but they seem a little big. And hey, wouldn't you look at that? We're playing as Louie! But he still has Olimar's icon. Over here, there's still 3 spiderworts, but obviously not the same ones. This, in addition to another image we'll see later, is absolute proof of there being 5 burgeoning spiderworts here. But that image will come in its due time. But this image proves my mixed berry theory. I love being right. Usually. Behind the spiderworts is some ugly water. Next to the water is the corpse of Yellow Wollywog, which seems to be sitting on the bridge's railing. Behind the 1 in the day counter is a male sheargrub, but I can't tell if it's alive or not. Now there's 120 total Pikmin on the field. While we're on the HUD, there's that miscolored yellow Pikmin icon. Who does it belong to? Keen observers and knowledgeable Pikmin people should know this. It's for the purple Pikmin. For one thing, our purple Pikmin is the closest one to Olimar. For another thing, the arrow above his cursor is black, and thirdly, who else would it belong to? Purple Pikmin and the color black are a bit more related than you might think, and hopefully, I'll remember to mention it later. This image has mold, a not dead yellow Wollywog despite it being later in the day, and the same day, 110 Pikmin on the field, and an early white Pikmin standby icon. Next, we're back to 123 Pikmin on the field with a camera angle the final game never goes to. Prominently displays is blue hearted gold ring treasure. There are gold ring treasures and rings with hearts on them, but never at the same time. Also note, it's round base. You'll see that later. Much later. And that wall texture is pretty high quality, for some reason. With this image, we run the possibility of being on a new version of the game. Why? Well, because the preceding zeros are now in full, not grayed out color. But from what I can tell, it's not any different from what you saw before, so I'm including it here. Despite this, here are those 2 extra burgeoning spiderworts, once again confirming my theory. Despite that, the only interesting things here are the unbuilt bridge, so how to get over here. It seems that Olimar is the only one to have a ball in his antenna this time. Returning to the world of grade zeros is a little place I like to call the Distant Pool, because it seems to be the perplexing pool in its intermediate stage between Distant Spring and the, well, you know. This is probably right next to the landing site because of the metal, whatever it is, and the wooden thing sticking out of the ground. The sandbar in the background seems to be an extended version of Unreplica's Island, and there's a spotty bull bear and stuff. There's not a lot to mention about this. As for the Distant Pool's second and last outing, there's a bit more here. There's another early clog in place of the shower room, surrounded by 6 wog poles. I don't actually remember this the same amount of wog poles as in the final game, but, like, who's gonna remember that? Lurking within Olimar's squad is a male sheargrub, and next to them a plastic pipe in different place. Next to the day counter is an island, right where the fortified delicacy would be, and next to that is a yellow Wollywog. I think. So much for the Distant Pool. You were kind of lame. There's this image next, which shows the metal cave units with a higher wall and an obvious cutoff in the back. But the most interesting thing about this image isn't the image itself, but the website I found it on. It put forth some strange theories, such as the game possibly having online play or the other play being controlled by a bot. This is very serious, so please don't laugh. Okay, do. You gotta be kidding me. Nintendo? Online play? In 2004? Okay, you've had your fun, let's get back to being serious. Next up is a video from what I've heard is E3 2003. It features some funky early 2000s music. Even though the video was recorded by filming a big screen, the quality isn't that bad. If you do think it's bad, trust me, I've seen worse. It could look and sound like this. So let's watch the better trailer. Right off the bat, there's a few things to mention, like the debug message in the top left saying, "Warning! System CPP 593, DVD loading, main thread!" And we're on day 2. I guess that's it. Here it's easy to see that the yellow billboard has green eyes. There's an unbuilt bridge leading up to the Sunseaberry/Snagwood Hole ledge. I wonder if it's supposed to be there or if it's just for the purpose of this demo, if it even is one. There's the dwarf yellow bulborbs. See, I told you they existed. In the top left behind the debug message is what seems to be either the geographic projection or some mold. Given the location, I say some mold, but given its size, I say the geographic projection. Yeah, I'm gonna say the camera never does this in the final game. The camera seems awfully close here as well. This random cut shows us an interesting sight, most obviously the strange block in the background. I'm pretty sure it's the 200 weight paper bag given the location. I can only assume the numbers means 256 by 90 units large. A yellow bulb can be seen just behind it. The location of the cave is confounding. The proximity of the bank says it could be the White Flower Garden, but this is not where the White Flower Garden is supposed to be. Because it seems we're outside of the paper bag, not the area behind it, it seems like it could be the Hole of Beasts instead. But the Hole of Beasts isn't supposed to be here either. A mystery. The Pikmin gracefully floated down for so long, the loading screen started before the Pikmin finish. Nothing, maybe except the ground we landed on, looks the same. The cutscene is about different as a sub-level introduction cutscene can be. The research pod has seen better days, or more likely lighting. There's an odd green circle under it, which might be a scanning circle thing. Of course, floor 1 is plastered over the screen in orange, which doesn't go away for the rest of the trailer, which I suppose makes up the lack of any loaded screen animation, and the skybox, which shows off the cave unit's nice, angular edges. So there's that early rubber ugly in the top right, but in the top left is a lapis lazuli candy pot bud that just turned golden. If I may propose another theory, I believe it's an early queen candy pot bud, one that changes a lot quicker than it does in the final version. 2 boulders fall very close to each other, and basically without any warning. They also lack any dust particle effects. There's some sheer wigs and a gate pillar on the right. Cool. This image seems to be an intermediate build from the one I just talked about to the one I'm going to talk about. This is a challenge with 2 players, if you couldn't tell. I can say with a certain degree of confidence that this giant display does not exist in the final game. On a different note, the picture space is now purple, and Louis actually has an icon. But it's just Almond's icon from the original game, now with the red parts colored a nice light blue, similar in color to Alf's spacesuit, not Louis'. This new build is much closer to the final, but there's still one huge, glaring, bulbous difference. A burgeoning spiderwort does not exist in this place in the awakening wood. The preceding zeros are gone, and Alm and Louis have what I'm pretty sure is their final icons, although they're light-colored backgrounds. The D-Day still is not capitalized. And, I almost forgot, spicy sprays are now red. Here's a red Pikmin in a right-facing profile during the spicy spray introduction cutscene. At least I'm pretty sure that's what it is, because I can't actually tell what's being said. Here's a perplexing pool much closer to its final incarnation. The claw looks more normal, it's still day 21, but there's 2 pellets at the bottom. I don't recall there being anything that produced pellets down there, but maybe my memory is going. I also only count 4 Wogpulse, but I could have just missed some. The Ranging Bloister, the perplexing pool overworld. Why? Because, see those seesaw blocks? There's a better view in the next image. The puzzle to get the massage girl is very simple here. Seems all you have to do is lower the back block, run to the front block, then raise it up, and you're good to go. Also, the blocks are pointing outwards, not towards the submerged castle. Next, the day counter are 2 pellets, a blue 5 pellet and a red pellet of undeterminable size. Even though I know there's a withering blowhog around there in the final game, I don't know what's possible to lure it far enough away to kill it near there, but it does seem like it could be just on the edge of its territory radius. The pellets all seem to be a bit close together. This image is the very definition of stuff we've already seen. To make up for this, though, I have 2 trailers for you. The first of these is some live gameplay from E303. Credit where credit is due, the presenter actually seems to know what she's talking about, at least compared to the pick up the game day 1 type. This menu and everything that succeeds it is only for the E3 demo. I think.
Sarah Borthwick, I work for Atari. We partner with Nintendo and produce some games for Nintendo. I have to say that I bought a GameCube specifically to play Pikmin, the original, and so I'm really excited about Pikmin 2. So in the original game, the main character, Omar.
Also, challenge level. Neat.
Crash lands on a planet very, very similar to Earth, and
so the challenge level is the Awakening Wood. This goes without saying, but nearly none of the objects or their placements are representative of the state of the game at this point in time.
And in this one, he comes back to the same planet where the Pikmin originally helped him reassemble his spaceship, this time to collect treasure.
Maybe it's just the audio quality, but the ship's sounds are different. The game is also abbreviating Captain, which it doesn't do in the final.
And he's also with a companion. I believe it's his wife.
Let's just ignore that.
So, instead of having...
For some reason, currently unknown to me, the game isn't using icons to reference the controller's buttons. Although it's hard to tell, I think the Y is colored green. It's pretty obvious why the game doesn't do this.
To reassemble his spaceship, we're trying to find various treasures that can be resold. We need to get...
Ah, crap. The preceding zeros are back. Can't get rid of those things.
Essentially 1,000 points worth of treasures. So we've met these Pikmin before. These little blue guys, they can swim underwater. They're the only ones who are not afraid of water. And what I'm doing right now is just collecting Pikmin pellets. The blue pellets will generate more blue Pikmin. Obviously, any color Pikmin can carry these pellets, take it back to their little onion nest, and out come Pikmin seeds.
The Pikmin sprouts land pretty far away from the onion. It'll be even more obvious later on.
Pikmin are essentially like half plant, half animal. I don't quite know what they are, but they're named after little carrots. Okay.
Hey look, the gate has a health wheel. Once again, there'll be a better view later on.
Okay. So basically, while I have the blue Pikmin breaking down a wall, I'm gonna go over here and gather my yellow Pikmin. And I just can always call them. They think independently, but they follow my orders quite well. And I'm just gonna have the yellow Pikmin gather the yellow Pikmin pellets so that more Pikmin can be generated. Because with more Pikmin, like each one is kind of weak, but when they work as a team, they can accomplish a lot. So the red Pikmin are actually quite strong and can withstand fire. They actually, from past experience, they have been the most valuable Pikmin. So I want to...
There's an electric gate in a very odd place. I noticed that objects and stuff aren't representative, but this feels like a very weird place to put one. It could just be there to block off that area from the demo, true, but then why isn't it in the same place as the Bramble Gate in the final?
Create a lot more of them. And I just... Okay. The yellow Pikmin have just hijacked the red pellet, so I just had to call them off. So while these guys are breaking down this wall, and I'm just going to add more reinforcements, the Pikmin pellets have sprouted seeds, and those seeds, as you can see, are little Pikmin growing in the ground. But I'm going to let them wait a little bit, because as you'll see later on, as the more time the Pikmin spend in the ground, the stronger they get. And you can tell how strong they are based upon the flower, bud, or leaf on the top of their head. A flower is the strongest, a leaf is the weakest and slowest. So this is new to Pikmin 2. Basically, it's kind of like a polluted ground, I guess you could call it. It looks like spider's eggs to me. But the Pikmin are kind of cleaning up this polluted ground, and hopefully lush green life will come back as soon as they are done accomplishing their task. Here you can see what I was talking about. These Pikmin have turned into buds because they've stayed in the ground long enough. So as soon as our flowers, I'll pick them, and then they can join my little army. And coming back, let me give you a better angle. Here is the flower. So the Pikmin cleaned up the ground, and up comes this flower. Yay!
Next up is another trailer for E3 2003. Wait, these can't all be for E3 2003. Just play the trailer. For some reason, Olimar takes a very strange path. That, my friends, is the reason why Olimar and Louis' icons never on screen at the same time. The other restored off-screen, and they rotate in when the leaders are swapped. That's a lot of clovers, many more than there would be in the final, but then again, there aren't any. That cave's in a weird spot. I wonder what it is, though. There's also a lack of any margwaits or horsetails surrounding the stone structure. Idiot. But at least there's a black bramble gate in place of the 200 weight paper bag. A bramble gate with the exact same color and the exact same place exists in the Forest of Hope. That's a severe lack of skybox. Even though we have blue Pikmin unlocked, the gate guarding the blue onion, now another black bramble gate, has not been felled. There are some debugging shenanigans going on here. There's that two-player challenge thing again, along with another dead dwarf yellow bulborb. I can't say I recognize this place, although I can say I've committed all the challenge mode caves to memory. Idiot. But at least the poison in the back is purple. But the poison gate makes me ask a question. Where is this? This seems to be the Wistful Wild, specifically the area with the two orange bulborbs. But there's a very distinct lack of them. Idiot. One frame later is this. Behind that yellow bulborb is a treasure, at least I think it is, that I can't make out. And I just noticed there's no Pikmin death counter. Idiot. This is the Wistful Wild again, but I just can't shake the feeling it looks different. Like it doesn't have its autumn theme. Is that just me? The most glaring thing here is this sandy area. To me it looks like the massage machines area in the distant spring, minus the skulls. Although it's taken up by the shower room, likely even in this build, so it probably isn't that. I really have no idea where this is supposed to be. The Sunseed Berry is being carried, but it's supposed to be in the Awakening Wood. And speaking of being carried, the carrying number's colors are the same as the first games again. I didn't expect to see that again. Idiot. Say it with me now. Idiot. The build featured here seems to be near identical to the last one. The most glaring difference here is the Spirit Kateras became well-rounded individuals. The Pileated Snagret on the 9th sublevel of a cave. The Pileated Snagret is not fought on the 9th sublevel of a cave. This is most likely the Hole of Heroes, but the sublevel the fight takes place on is the 4th. A story in 3 images. The story takes place on a sublevel I don't recognize, but does feature an empty health wheel, for whatever that's worth. The most interesting thing about this image is the fact it exists. And the D&D is capitalized. Next up is the GameCube lineup sizzle reel of sorts. Among 1080-degree snowboarding and custom mobile for the Nintendo GameCube is Pikmin 2. The background music that plays is apparently one of the Pikmin 2 e-reader minigames. Not that you're going to be able to listen to it very well, though. The red Pikmin introduction cutscene in the wrong place. Alright, so first, that's a monumentally thick tree branch. And second, that's a monumentally thick seesaw block. I'm pretty sure it's just another paper bag placeholder, though.
Pikmin, 覚えていますか?
Olimar plucking some Pikmin out of a tree stump. This is more than likely in the perplexing pool. You remember those rings in the middle of the map, near the yellow onion? I'm pretty sure those used to mark an early landing site. Right where this would be.
彼らと過ごす日々
Seeing some pre-release images, the E3 demo, and now here. It sure is a hardy spider wart to make it this far, but not hardy enough to make the final cut.
が再びやってきました.
This oddly placed electric gate is guarding a cave. That seems to be where the geographic projection is supposed to be. Maybe it's the Hole of Beasts. Hey, look at that! We're the Awakening Wood on day 2!
仲間が増えて5色になったピクミンたちとお宝探しの始まりです.
This seems to be the Yell battery, a treasure exclusive to the Japanese version of the game. The Yell battery is found in the same place as the optical illustration or the abstract masterpiece. So what's it doing underground? So where to begin? The place Olimar and Louie are standing on isn't a one-way concrete ramp, but just some grass, much like the distant spring. The withering blowhog is much farther away than would be normally, and the submerged castle is placed near a small standing island. This quote-unquote island also exists in the distant spring. Some bulborb lava are being fought on the 6th level of a cave, which is the final floor. Given that, and the floor texture, you might assume it was the Frontier Cavern, but the Frontier Cavern is 2 sublevels longer than this. Your next guess would probably be the Hole of Beasts, but that's 1 sublevel shorter. In conclusion, I don't really know where this is. That's not normal. The Impulse Ball Blast with bulborb lava on sublevel 6 again. Wait, Olimar, no!
Pikmin 2.
After this comes some more live gameplay. They were likely taken before anyone knew what the term pixel density meant. Right off the bat, it looks like the Lost Toy Box. Give it a timer, and it looks most like the Lost Toy Box. But there are, to the surprise of nobody, some differences, like vegetation, and blue Pikmin. The final version has neither of these things, of course. But wait, there's more! Like the timer starting at 150, not 100. Fun fact, by the way, each increment on the timer lasts 2 seconds, and there only being 50 Pikmin. One can spy, though, some dwarf blue bulborbs. They, unfortunately, befell the same fate as their yellow brethren. The blue Kochappy, and the never actually seen as far as I know, blue Chappy, were turned into dwarf and non-dwarf orange bulborbs. The dwarf blue bulborb drops a mirth sphere. You'll see plenty of dwarf bulborbs dropping things later on, but trust me, they don't drop any of that stuff in the final game. The other one also seems to move a bit faster than normal. After interacting with the Pikmin, the one actually moving dwarf blue bulborb on screen started sniffing around much faster. It's probably a bug. As for the next and last one, even though it says that one Pikmin is lifting that dwarf blue bulborb's corpse, it isn't. Only purple Pikmin are available, and if you look at the burst sphere it just dropped, it says 6 Pikmin are carrying it. Either it's a bug or the developers haven't changed purple Pikmin to count 10 Pikmin on the carrying numbers yet.
Mario und Luigi schwer bewaffnet aussehen. Und weg ist der Text dran. So schnell kann es gehen. Hier bei Mario Kart.
You know, that doesn't look like the other scrap.
So, wer mitspielen möchte, einfach ein Gewicht ausfüllen und anstellen. An unser Treffen. Links und rechts. Hält euch eigentlich nicht mehr auf. Schaut euch, abgewinnt.
Yep, it's definitely different. It's probably the same treasure, just with a different texture.
Und zeigt ihr mal den anderen Jungs, wo es lang geht. Inzwischen vorne die Prinzessin.
Dwarf blue bulborbs are worth 5 Pokos. Dwarf orange bulborbs are only worth 2, just like every other dwarf bulborb and bulbear in the final game. This build of the game is extremely close to the final, but there are a few, keyword a few, minor differences compared to it. For example, the leader's icons poke slightly out of their bubbles. Stuff like that. It's still evident here. There's no clog. It's starting to make me wonder why they even put one there in the first place. Anyway, what's being done here is apparently how you got non-blue Pikmin to the Bullet's Kingdom originally. Just like the shock absorber. The skybox appears to be just gray. How exciting. The super sick textile is supposed to be in the Merchant's Cave. And that's all I really have to say on that subject. The Love and Courage reactor in the same place it's always been, but what isn't there is a small amount it's supposed to sit in. In the top right corner next to the D counter is a stretched texture. Man, I'm really stretching this, aren't I? Pun not intended. A communications link with Louie has finally been re-established, but it's been re-established so well that it changed the placement of the camera and allows us to see past the skybox. To the left of the horsetail is another funky-looking texture. This here is the Endless Repository, the European and Japanese version specifically, on the third sublevel of the White Flower Garden. It seems to have replaced the super stick textile. Here's the real treasure of the sublevel. Is it just me, or is the lighting different? Yeah, it's probably just me. I'll give you a second here to notice the difference. It's hard, but there is one. Notice it yet? Even though the Ultra Bitter Spray hasn't been unlocked yet, the purple dot on the D-pad is still there. Riveting, isn't it? Everything here looks to be in order, except one thing. There's 26 Pikmin on day 1, when in the final game you can only grow 20. The rest of these images here are not very exciting, but I'm still going to show you them anyway. Tradition dictates I now show you some trailers, or some other form of footage. Lucky you, I have some. Let's take a look. Idiot. Louie has a red Pikmin on standby in what I can only assume is the Lost Toy Box again. Need I remind you the Lost Toy Box only has 100 yellows. Speaking of which, there's still only 50 Pikmin. And there's blue Pikmin again. Next up is another Japanese trailer.
今度のピクミンは全部で5種類。攻撃力が高く炎に強い赤ピクミン。高くまで飛ぶことのできるキーピクミン。水に入っても溺れない青ピクミン。そして新ピクミン登場。太っちょで力持ちの紫ピクミン。
Typically, whether it's a bug or intentional, purple Pikmin will latch onto a dead dwarf Bulbasaur for the duration of its death animation. That didn't happen here, and I'm jealous.
体の中に毒を持っているという白ピクミン。一匹一匹は力の弱いピクミンたちだけど、みんなで力を合わせればとっても強力。壁を壊したり、橋を作ったり、そして巨大な生物と戦ったり。
A case of level, specifically the 7th, with a Gatling Groink, Bomb Rocks, and a Queen Candy Paw Bud. No such a level exists in the final game, at least not one with all this stuff at once.
オリマーとルーイの冒険の目的はこの星に眠るお宝を集めること。もちろん宝物を運ぶのもピクミンたちの役目です。さらに協力して宝物を集めたり、ピクミンたちを率いて対戦したり、2人で一緒にプレイ。
All my loose icons liking the colored backgrounds again, but that could just be something that exists for two-player battle. I don't remember.
もできます。日の出から日没までがピクミンとの1日。日数制限はありません。ゆったりじっくり楽しんでください。任天堂ゲームキューブピクミン2。
there actually is one very last thing. This artwork of the Regal Diamond from the new Play Control Pikmin 2 website that shows it with a blue tint. Honestly, I'm not even sure if this counts as pre-release stuff. So I've decided to break this video into 3 separate ones. So far I've only covered half the pre-release stuff for Pikmin 2 pre-release and unused content. Trust me though, this is for the best. I'm keen on not repeating what happened before, so, like I said, this is for the best. Day tracking will go across all 3 videos, by the way, so this is all I could find on Pikmin 2's pre-release content.